Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party. I'm a buddy Rhett here. Hey Rhett. Um, so today I'm gonna do it's Saturday at 3:15, March 15th. I really wanted to start growing potatoes on the second week of March, but I don't know why. I just this last week I was so unproductive and unmotivated. I'm pretty sure I think it's because of daylight savings, but I'm not sure. But anyways, I wanted to talk about DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, and I have thoughts about it. Um, it is interesting though because I like to kind of start these things off by asking ChatGPT, and ChatGPT just refused to talk about it. It was like, "Oh, you're talking about the coin." Oh, and it just kind of did not want to talk about it, and finally told it I found this at whitehouse.gov, and then it basically gave me some information and all that. And I guess what this says is, uh, yeah, not a lot. It just kind of gives the basic 30,000 foot overview of what Doge is, which is ideal. Obviously, I wish it kind of gave this sort of information about everything, but typically it doesn't. Typically, ChatGPT sort of finds opinions and sort of finds opinions that kind of closely match your opinions, and then sort of just digests them and gives it back to you in a very well written way with really good grammar and basically maybe some additional supporting facts that you weren't aware of, which is cool too. But actually would have preferred if it was always more like this, where it just kind of gave you the facts. Um, but it is neat though to know that it can be configured to just give facts and not do this other stuff, which has led to a lot of problems. But anyways, that's not what I was going to talk about. So I think that Doge was going to happen. Like that's going to happen. Basically, um, it didn't matter which party. It was just a matter of time before someone was just going to go in and just start wiping out massive sections of the federal government, because and probably for the reasons that they're saying. I'm not saying that, and the reasons they're saying is because it's highly inefficient, and it there's a lot of dead weight in the government. I'm not saying that everything that they're doing is getting rid of dead weight. I don't really know. It's way too complicated for me to really truly understand what's going on. But but I will say that it. I think anyone who's interacted with the federal government in any way, in any capacity, has seen, has personally observed, like just inefficiency, just absolute inefficiency. And I think it's probably like it's easiest to kind of see it in human beings just not doing their work and not being responsive and stuff like that. But like our post office guy, he goes around and his Jeep that he drives, little Jeep thing, like is a piece of garbage. Um, there's just no way that that is an efficient piece of machinery. Um, it is like literally like 1940s technology. It's got to be 1940s, 1950s technology. Um, and Yeah, there's just no way that maintaining that thing, that ancient antique, literal antique vehicle that he uses to deliver the mail. There's just no way that that that's efficient. That's very bad efficiency, and that's like one of my touch points with the federal government. Just if like if you can't, if it's what you can actually see, that's going to be the tip of the iceberg. The inefficiencies within the government must be absolutely insanely crazy behind the scenes. But we're being so unfair because, like, I see way, like 100 times more inefficiency in corporations and in state and local government and parks divisions and uh, volunteer organizations and hospitals and um, all kinds of stuff. Like inefficiency and just absolute um, waste is everywhere. I mean, like everywhere in our food system, in every system we have. We just have massive amounts of waste and massive amounts of inefficiency. So, but I do think that that's probably not why DOGE exists, and I don't think that DOGE exists because of a political thing. I think DOGE exists because there is a percentage, like it's very rare, right? It's rare, like a minority of people are just very, very good at coding, writing code, understanding code, doing code. Just really, really good at that. Uh, Analyzing numbers and just doing stuff that's just like puzzles, and stuff like that. Pattern seekers, just that sort of thing. There's a lot of them. And as a population, like for some reason, the powers that be in our population decided that they want to absolutely positively make it very difficult for people who write code to stay employed. And I don't and as I'm starting to kind of look around and talk to more people and all that, I don't I don't know if it is just coders. I was talking to a lady yesterday and she was saying that like her daughter went and she started as a vet tech at a vet hospital when she at a veterinarian when she was 16 years old. She worked and she got a good job. It was paying her money, and she got to work with animals and stuff. And then and I think she was making like $15 an hour or something like that. She was like 16 years old. She was living large, or and stuff like that. And then she went to the University of Georgia and got a degree in veterinary technology or something like that. And when she was there, she worked with like cows and big in, industrial animals, and stuff like that. And she knows this stuff inside and out. And today, or at least yesterday, Saturday, March 14th, she's working at the exact same vet for $15 an hour. So when she had absolutely no experience and just an interest in animals, I guess about back in 2010 or something, maybe 2000. I guess maybe it was like 2015, probably like 10 years ago. Um, she was worth $15 an hour as a vet tech. Today, she's worth $15 an hour with a college degree and 10 years of experience and a proven track record. And she's not she obviously can stay employed. She's obviously stable and all that, and she has to live with her mother. And um but then I bet you if you could do an analysis of that. So I guess the point I was trying to make was the it, I was thinking that there was some nefarious activity that was kind of going after software developers specifically, like um, and all that, but maybe not. It probably not. It seems like all industries are all like not paying. They're not paying their employees, but So it's just a natural thing, right? And the easiest, because the federal government has takes tax money and they sort of have to sort of share their information. It was very easy for these very underemployed technical people to start analyzing the data of the government and of the federal government, and the numbers are so big and all that that it just made a lot of sense. And these people don't have anything else to do because it's freaking hard to get a job. I mean, like, literally, I think I barely, like, I definitely make a fraction, a absolute fraction of what I used to make in 2000. So, like, the pay has gone just insanely bad, and it's for everything. So now you have people who like coding, they're educated, they have access to information and all that, and they're doing a deep dive and finding inefficiencies all throughout the federal government, and they just are. And what's probably next? The state governments, and then localities, and then once they're done with all that and they've built all those skills of finding all this waste and all that, then they'll start going after the corporations. Or probably the charities will be next. Like, oh, why is this charity spending a hundred? They're taking in $200 million, and they're spending 100, and they're only spending 6 million of it on the thing that they're supposed to be doing, their mission, and the rest of it's going into whatever. And they'll start probably go after charities after what, because the easy ones are going to be the governments, right? Because the governments do have to share all their information, and then the next ones will be the charities, because the charities are still like, they kind of have to share their information, but then they're going to go after Ford and GM and all the different big corporations and all the banks, and the banks are kind of like, but actually the banks will probably come before them, because the banks do have to share a lot of information as well. Insurance companies will probably get nailed next. um, but yeah, no, this doge thing is just the beginning. It's absolutely just the beginning. And yeah, we've all been kind of had bad experiences with the post office. Like, I mean, I could tell you some horror stories for my wife's business, and we've all had bad experiences with the IRS. I haven't, but I'm sure my day's coming. And then everyone's had bad experiences with the federal government. There's just no way. I think anyone who's ever been to college had a really bad experience probably with grants and stuff like that, and student loans and things like that. So, like, the government is the federal government's just the first, and not even the biggest target. And then the other governments it's coming for you guys. Like, it's coming. And the only reason is because these software development brain type people, like, I didn't even care about government, right? Like, the only thing that made me really start to think, what the F is going on with the government, was when I was unemployed, and I went to go get my car, the emissions checked on my car, and I was like, oh, so basically the battery died on my car, and it had been like sort of been not behaving well for a while, and so I went and got it replaced my battery, and then the next day I took it up to get to the emissions. And I guess that was because a few years back, maybe 15 years ago, I had gone to the emissions, and my battery, I had a bad battery, and it wouldn't start at the emissions place, and the guy was just horrible to me. Um, and so I didn't want to go through that again. So I got replaced my battery and drove it in, and they're like, failed, and I'm like, are you kidding me? My freaking car failed, and so I'm just like, this is crazy. And so I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to do research, trying to look at these codes that it gave me and all that. And it turned out that like your computer does this reset thing, and you have to drive it like 50 miles or not, like 15 miles, and it has to go through the full process of like being started, idling for at least like 3 minutes, um, driving, like accelerating, and then it has to go through the full, all the different processes that a car goes through. And then once it's done with that, then it has all the codes, and then the codes can be read. And I was like, so my car literally failed because emissions, because I had a new battery. And I remember when this emissions started, and the way it used to work was, so there was a problem, and the problem was is that there was smog all over the place in Atlanta, and and then all around Atlanta and stuff. And any place where there was just a bunch of cars, we would have like fog, and they were like, man, literally 1 in 100 cars are just like belching out smoke, and this 1 in 100 cars that should have been freaking gone or should be fixed or whatever, something needs to be done about that. And it was so bad that everybody's just like, okay, fine, let's have emissions. And they used to stick a thing in the back of your car, and they would check the emissions, and they would check to see, are you making emissions, because none of us wanted emissions around. Okay, we did not sign up, we did not empower the department of whatever does this stuff. We didn't empower them to set up this freaking thing with the car companies where they check the whole stability of the entire car, and they make sure that everything in the car is working perfectly. That's not what we freaking checked. We signed up for. What we signed up for and what we empowered them to do was check the freaking emissions. But this government agency, just on their own, a state government agency, just on their freaking own, without any authority from anybody, just decided on their own that they were going to just start doing this. And now, if you get a new battery, you fail emissions. Like, that was not anyone's intention. And this is bullcrap and all that. And I was just like, man, no, our government's really screwed up. Well, the only reason any of that, like, I wouldn't have even thought a single thing about any of that if I was gainfully employed at the time, thinking about problems, computer programming problems. Well, all these people at DOGE, they wouldn't be thinking about this if they were working on computer programming stuff, but they aren't. They're working on nothing. There's nothing for them to do because there's no money for anyone to pay them, because there's no money to pay anybody anything, like, and so DOGE is just the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's gonna the way our system is right now. The way our system is, we're not going to be able to employ people. And the reason we can't employ people, in my personal opinion, and it's kind of weird because I do think the universe kind of puts you where you belong, but it's this. It is bankruptcy. It's debt. If you buy a candy bar right now, you go down to the store, you pay $1 for a candy bar. I bet you, and I would love to see an analysis, and these Doge people probably will do an analysis, and nobody would do this analysis unless they had a lot of free time. But I'll bet you 85 cents of that money that I spent on that is paying some sort of debt. It's paying debt on the truck that drove that thing there, debt on the farm that farms that pick the debt on the factory that put all the debt. It's the vast majority of our money is going into debt, and then that debt is going to pay some small group of financial institutions and the people behind those financial institutions. It's going, thank you, Rhett. Yeah, Rhett. Yeah. It's going to, for those financial institutions, and then they're just like, oh man, we got all this money and we aren't doing anything all day for it, but we got tons and tons of money. So, you know what? Let's buy some Bitcoin. Let's buy this. Let's buy that. And all super unproductive. It's not going back in the system, and basically it's choking everything out. All the debt up and down from top to bottom is just choking out the entire economy. That, like, we had this really cool little business that was up north of us a little bit that my wife would literally go to every Saturday. And every time we went there, it was packed with people. And it was called Tuesday Morning. And we'd go there, and it was packed with people, and there was like happy. The employees were really happy, relatively happy, and the whole place, it seemed very, very healthy. Like, you would see 1,000 items come in, there'd be a bunch of them on the shelves, and come back a week later, and a lot of them were gone. Come back a month later, and most of them were gone. Come back a year later, there was one or two of them around that you could buy on a deep, deep discount because they had sold the vast majority of what they'd gotten. And there was maybe a couple of broken ones or ones that weren't in their boxes or something, that were still left to sell. The business was clearly a very, very healthy business, but they just shut it down. And they shut it down because apparently they had the overall organization went into bankruptcy, and they couldn't reorganize in such a way that they were able to come out. So this was a healthy, productive business that is just gone, and only gone because of debt. And that's what's happening. The veterinary clinic probably would loved it. They probably, her boss and her boss's boss are probably like very aware of that girl who was literally making as much money when she was 16-year-old part-time vet tech as she is now. And she's still part-time too. She doesn't have benefits. She doesn't have any of those sorts of things. But she has a degree and 10 years of experience now. And she's an adult. And she's living with her mom. And she's just like, she can't afford anything. And I'm sure they would love to pay her more, but they can't. And I bet you if you could break down when someone brings in a dog and they charge them $500 for x-rays and this and that and this and that, and you could break down all the money that goes into that, there's a teeny tiny little fraction that goes into paying the employees, and there's a huge fraction that goes into paying debt on machines, debt on the building, debt on all that stuff. And then most of the money that, let's say they pay $3,000 $4,000 a month to be leasing, that company, they probably spend the vast majority of that money that they get on debt. So now in the Bible, apparently, there was a concept called a Jubilee. And basically every 50 years, and this is probably bullshit, right? Like, and it's the only reason I know about this is because it's in my book, my paralegal book. But this is probably complete BS because it's probably something that was written about something that happened 5,000 years ago. And honestly, when I read about things that happened when I was in high school, they get it completely wrong. So there's no way that something that happened 5,000 years ago, they have it right. But the story is, and there's probably some kernel of truth, is that every 50 years they had a Jubilee and they just wiped out all debt. Probably was way more complicated than that. It probably wasn't set on a time. Who the hell knows what a year was back then? There's just, but the point is that we're going to have that. We are going to have a Jubilee, and it's going to be painful. And probably the older you are, the more painful it's going to be. And it's just unfortunate, but like, we have screwed this up. Everything is the whole system is gummed up with debt. And if we don't figure out how to eliminate this debt, it's going to be real bad. It's going to be real bad for us. I think that it's going to turn out really, really like I suspect the only other alternative, we're probably headed in a direction, and one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to get a Jubilee type thing where basically all debt is wiped out and you have what you have, and we're feeling that, or and that's going to suck. It's going to suck, especially for older people. or we're gonna have like probably go to debtor prisons because we're gonna have to figure out ways to force people to pay their debts, and so we'll have to have debtors prisons, and then eventually it's gonna be like, well, that's not helping because we take productive people and we make them unproductive. Well, why not just give them jobs in prison? To be like, just give them jobs, let them do something while they're in prison, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, let them do stuff for the people that they didn't pay, and then we're at slavery. I think those are the only two paths. Either we go to basically enslavement, where basically we have a small percentage of the elite with full ownership over human beings, or we have a jubilee where basically we flip the monopoly board, start back over with basically everyone has whatever they have. If you have your car, that's your car. If you have your house, that's your house. If you have a dog, that's your dog. Um, if you have a wallet full of cash, that's your cash. Um, that and it's I if when you think through it, you start to realize how bad that would be. How like all the processes will just get effed up. Like I don't know how you get if you get that if you were to wipe out all the debt tomorrow. I don't know how you get something from the Arctic Circle, some kind of product that they create up there, into a um, into the racetrack convenience store next to my house. I don't know how all that would work. And it probably wouldn't. We probably would have all sorts of systems collapse, um, and there would be a lot of bad outcomes from that. But I don't. I think we are way too deep into everything's gummed up. We just aren't going to be able to come out, and DOGE is just the very, very, very beginning. Um, and yeah, we're going to find stuff out that's pretty kind of a bummer. Anyways, that is that. I don't know what we're going to do. Not super optimistic about um, how we're going to work through this issue, but I'm pretty sure that that is the issue, is um, the debt, the paying for debt in our society is just got everything completely unproductive. So I know what I'm going to do next. I'm going to write some code so I can get my mind off of this stuff, because I love it. I love it so much. Bye, everybody. Happy coding.